The question is this: can God truly be all good and all loving if he is all powerful and all knowing?
Hello, sister. These are great questions, and I'll try to engage with them using my Eastern Orthodox theology. This challenge is by no means new, but it is worthy of a response, and I believe that Holy Scripture, along with the collective wisdom of the Greek, Russian, and pre-schism Latin fathers, provide us with a fun toolkit, so to speak. Here in Part 1, I'll provide a brief introduction to Epicurean philosophy as well as its entailments. In the next video, I'll explain why I think the Epicurean paradox ultimately shoots itself in the foot, and in the third and final video, I'll explain how these terms and categories are understood in the Orthodox Christian paradigm. First of all, the way we exegete the external world is heavily conditioned by our paradigms. These provide the explanatory frameworks for how we interpret things like matter, the nature of time and how it's experienced, moral truths, the laws of logic and their foundation, etc. The philosopher Thomas Kuhn discusses this at length in his book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. He illustrates the priority as opposed to the posteriority of paradigmatic frameworks using scientists and the nature of their work. He defines the paradigms of a scientific community as a set of recurrent and quasi-standard illustrations of various theories in their conceptual, observational, and instrumental applications, and through careful study and practical application, the members of the community are able to learn their trade. Furthermore, he says that paradigms may be prior to, more binding, and more complete than any set of rules for research that could be clearly abstracted from them. Paradigms could very well determine normal science without the intervention of discoverable rules. And lastly, he says that scientists never learn abstracted concepts, laws, and theories by themselves. Instead, they encounter these axioms in a historically and pedagogically prior unit, a paradigm, that displays them with and through their applications. This is particularly relevant to my breakdown of the Epicurean paradox because the metaphysical framework known as Epicureanism didn't fully originate with Epicurus himself. He inherited his ideas from systems articulated by people who pre-existed him like Plato and Democritus, so the manner in which Epicureanism envisions good, evil, divinity, motion, etc. are all going to be seen through the lens of its paradigm. But let's take a step back. What exactly is Epicureanism? It's a school of Greek philosophical thought founded by Epicurus, or Epikuros.
You Greek?
Tim O'Keefe says that Epicurus's thought had a significant impact on the world, as it was one of the major philosophical systems competing for the allegiance of the more studiously minded folk in the ancient Hellenistic world. The later rediscovery of his thinking helped shape the scientific revolution in Western Europe. Furthermore, O'Keefe says that Epicurean quote-unquote physics offers a systematic account for the entire theory of nature, extending to both the material world and its various processes. So broadly speaking, there is a strong degree of overlap between the domain of Epicurean physics and modern physics insofar as both systems are concerned with atomic motion, the precise nature of how atoms are constitutive of larger bodies, and various matters pertaining to cosmology. So for Epicurus, the only things that really exist are the natural world and the physical processes therein. It's essentially philosophical materialism. In the strictest sense, the only things that exist per se are atoms and void. O'Keefe defines the Epicurean notion of atoms as being uncuttable bits of solid body that move through void, which is simply empty space. Atoms fall through space on account of their weight, and in order to explain how they collide, rebound, and become entangled with one another to form macroscopic bodies, Epicurus posits a random atomic swerve. And this swerve is how Epicurus accounts for the movement and change we see in the external world. He cites two primary reasons for this change: weight and the aforementioned swerve. Weight is the natural tendency of atoms to move downwards in a void of unlimited space. And yes, Epicurus believed the universe is spatially unlimited. And then we have the atomic motion known as the swerve. At uncertain times, or in other words, at spontaneous, uncaused, and indeterminate moments, atoms actually swerve to the side. For Epicurus, this sort of atomic fluctuation, along with the weight that propels its downward motion, explained how atoms could collide and conjoin to form the intricate bodies we see in the external world. Without this fluctuation, all the atoms would just fall parallel to one another in unlimited space. And for another later Epicurean philosopher, Lucretius, this eternal, non-fluctuating parallel descent would have no creative capacity whatsoever, since the atomic collision required for the formation of bodies would be impossible. So with all that said, what are some of the issues with this so-called paradox? We'll explore that in part 2. Take care, and God bless.